married into their women and had babies by their women, when every tribe in the Southeast had a matrilineal society.
Right.
So that meant that if you had a baby from a woman and she was of the Yamasi, then that baby was Yamasi.
That's right.
And so they have these things documented on Seminole records.
Right.
They have these things documented amongst the Mikosuki.
Right.
They have it documented amongst the Creeks. So, you know, when you say that, you know, again, the extinction, people that have a purpose will look past that.
Right.
People who have a purpose will say, oh, well, they're all African, or they're, you know what I mean, they're African American.
Right.
Well, no, we're not. We happen to be dark-skinned people, and actually, we're not even black. We're red-skinned. We're red-skinned. We're
red-skinned,
yeah.
exactly.
You know what I mean? They say copper tone.
Exactly.
You know?
It's redskins.
It's redskins.
Right.
You know,
and hence the big debate with the Washington Redskins. Some look at it as being offensive, some look at it as being derogatory, but what most people don't know is prior to the British immigrating to Virginia and Washington, who were there? The Redskins.
The Redskins. And that's exactly right. You know, it is so pivotal that people really understand the literal meaning of things.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is, when people see dark-skinned Indians, and we're going to see some cousins, the Mikosuki.
Yes.
Today, we're going down to Miami to see Leroy Osceola,
Yes.
the traditional Mikosuki.
Yes.
When you see their ancestors, which are our ancestors,
Yes.
you look at us. You're looking at mirror images of us.
Right.
And so that is important, because when you see modern-day Mikosuki who have bred out a little bit,
Right.
or are breeding out
Right.
gradually,
Right.
and
Right.
they become lighter and lighter of skin,
Right.
those with the truth will say, well, this is coming from the raping of our women,
Right.
the raping of our children, and their skin tone gets lighter.
Right.
And I say that because, you know, is so, it becomes so controversial when people see people of our skin tone
Who are lighter or darker.
who are darker.
Exactly.
And then they say, oh, they're Africans. That is like saying all of the lighter versions of Native Americans in the West are Mexicans.
Exactly.
They get called that.
Sure.
They get called that.
It's ignorance.
It is ignorance.
It's sheer ignorance.
It's pure ignorance
Right.
at its best.
Right.
And it's also a form of racism, because it's a competition.
Right.
What is it that you don't want the
Right.
dark-skinned Indians to achieve?
Or, exactly.
You know what I mean? And you're perpetuating the same type of mentality or
Ignorance.
mental ignorance that your ancestors have were part to, that they had, subjected themselves through, and which what they were fighting about. You're doing the same thing. And then we won't do, as Native Americans, we won't say, well, brother, you're lighter than myself, and science have proven you're Mongoloid. Your ancestry is a Mongoloid, and that you come from Siberia.
Right.
You know, we won't do that. So we don't have to play that game.
That's right.
What we do is we embrace all people, but we ask that you truly get an understanding of Native American history, Native American documentation. There is nothing that we wrote about us.
Right.
Go back to, if you believe in, the white man, then go back to his documentation and look at what he says, because it only seems that our people believe what he says.
Right.
So it's documented who we are. It's documented what we've done. It's documented where we were.
Right.
And when they couldn't no longer document us, they put census records.
That's
on us.
right.
You know what I mean? They started
Right.
putting a census to find out where we were.
Where we were.
And
Where
then-
are you?
And then they wrote down Negro.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I asked everybody, where was a Negro on the continent? Name the country Negro.
There is no country. Actually, it was a Spanish term for black.
Plain and simple.
So we were in Spain.
Plain and simple. But you had a question, I apologize.
No, what I was going to say is my cameraman, Jorge Rivera, had two questions. And one question was, would you speak something in Yamasee? Would you say something in Yamasee for non-native speaking people?
Yeah. Ani miki, Sekhu Hadjo, Hadjo. Ani miki be, Ayati, Yamasi. Ani Fuse, Erepaka Hadjo, Ska Mikosuki. Puni Yamasi, Unke. Should not be che. To you, your cameraman, to the people. A rough translation is, I am Sekhu Hadjo, Yamasi, of the chief Arapaka Hadjo. Sam Jones is what he's known, and he lived in Mikosuki, Florida.
Yes.
Our people still exist.
Yes.
And we thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be able to speak and clarify some records.
Truthfully.
Truthfully, thank you.
And the second question that he has is, how do you think DNA testing has brought about, I hate using the word evolution, but I will, brought about the evolution of people actually knowing who they are and where they're from?
I'm out there. It hasn't. DNA testing will say that somebody was back in the 1700s and they drew blood from a native, and now they have blood that they can compare it to. That's not true. What they say is DNA testing allows us to know that your ancestors have been on this portion of the continent for so long because of genetic markers, because of the plants that here, the air that you breathe, because of this particular part of the continent's environmental makeup. Okay, so they can trace where your people were versus where they were not. But the problem becomes with that, they've traced markers with everyone that says at one point in time we're all linked into what they call a African woman called Lulu Amalu. Every human being has the same genetic trait and makeup. Every human being can be traced back to one part of this world. And those are markers like the tree, our brothers and sisters, the trees. When you go inside of a tree, they have rings. And the rings can tell you how long that tree has lived and what it has endured. They can literally tell you if that tree encompassed a storm and what damage it did to it.
Right.
You know, they can tell you if smokestacks was around it and it had, you know, the carbon within the tree absorbed so much smokestack. So they can say, oh, at this particular time, this tree was around a fire. They're doing that now with DNA. And what they found within DNA is there is no genetic marker or makeup that says that you're Indian. There is no genetic marker that says you're Native American. All they can say is your people have been here for so long, and that you have people that were here because of their genetic marker or their genetic makeup.
That makes sense. Well, thank you, cousin.
Thank you. Should I be checked?
Yeah.